there, welcome, and thank you so much for virtually joining us for the National World War II Museum's Metal Arts Workshop. We hope you've had a chance to check out the trench art exhibition on view at the museum. Today, we'll be making some trench art-inspired luminaries. If you've already pre-registered and have your kit, go ahead and grab it. And if not, take a moment, take a pause, and go gather those materials off the materials list. My name is Rachel Shimpock, and I'm a Southern California metalsmith. I've been doing it for 20 years and I love it. What's a metalsmith? Someone who works primarily with metal. In my case, it's jewelry. I teach it, I workshop it, I make it, I wear it. I love it. I love to fabricate, I love to cast, I love to use bronze, copper, sterling silver, and gold, yes, gold, on all of my work. So I'm very excited to show you a metal arts project today. What's trench art? I'm glad you asked. It's been popular since Napoleon, but really popularized by the World War I and World War II soldiers fighting in the, wait for it, you guessed it, the trenches. When they were fighting, they would collect little scraps of metal and bullet casings and sometimes even make the art in the trenches. But more often, they would collect the metal and bring it home and make small objects like dishes, vases, and luminaries. So join me today as we make a trench art inspired luminary. All right, let's take a few minutes and let's set up our workspace. We're gonna need some tools that are included in your kit or on the materials list, and you're also gonna need a couple things from around the house. So the first thing you're gonna need from around the house is a plain old dish rag. Plain old towel or maybe a rag from the garage, something that's clean, something that's relatively thin. It's mainly to protect the table from any damage. You don't want to have some thick bath towel, something you'd use after you get out of your bath or your shower, because it will rock and it's not a supportive surface. So I just want you to have a plain old dish rag, a plain old towel. Then you're going to put your wood block right on top of the towel. It's going to help protect the surface once again, and the towel's going to help this wood block stay in place. It's not going to want to wiggle around. The next thing is the center punch. Kind of looks like a metal magic wand. It's thick on one end and it's very pointy and sharp on the tip. So you don't want to be stabbing yourself or anybody else. And if it rolls off the table, just let it go. Make sure you see where it goes. I'm going to be holding the center punch with my left hand. I'm a right-handed person, so my right hand is reserved for my hammer, my wooden hammer. Those of you that love crabs might recognize this as a crab cracking hammer. And those of you that didn't, like me, might just see it as a cute little wood hammer. There we go. Either way, it's gonna help us hit the center punch. The center punch is going to make a hole, and then we're going to have a beautiful little luminary in the end. When I'm holding my center punch, I'm going to put my fingers down here. I'm gripping it all the way down here. There's no fingers up here in danger of getting hit. When I'm going to get ready to make a hole in my pattern, I'm going to put the tip of the center punch right on the dot that I want to make into a hole. My fingers are way away from the tip, and my pinky here is actually pushing against the wood. I have some downward pressure because I'm pushing the center punch down and holding it in the place that I want it to make the hole, and I'm holding it firmly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to line up my hit, and I'm going to give it a smack. Just like that. Medium. You don't want to be hitting so crazy hard, roar, like Thor and his hammer. Hwah! No. You also are not going to la 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 like a little woodpecker. La 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 la. No. You're going to put it down, you're going to line it up, and you're going to give it a good whack. That's it. That's it. No need to go crazy on it. No need to go too light. Get just right. Do a couple little practice holes before you commit on the pattern. No problem. In your kit, you're also going to have a piece of metal. This is copper. Look at me in my eyes. Are you looking at me? Good. These edges are so sharp. They're so sharp. Be careful. Please do not push your fingers like this. There'll be no grabbing by the very edge. No sweeping back and forth. No pushing. No pushing up on it. No pushing it down with your hands. The edges are sharp. Be careful. Thank you very much. You're also going to have a paper pattern. There's a couple to choose from. Pick one you like. We're going to need some clear tape to tape that pattern down. This is packing tape. This is clear packing tape. If you don't have clear packing tape, Scotch tape, clear, plain old Scotch tape is much better option than any kind of masking tape, and no duct tape, please. You need a clear tape so you can see through it. You need to see through it. Also, I would not recommend, don't use any kind of spray mount, any kind of spray glue. If you don't have any tape in the house, but you do happen to have some rubber cement, this is also great. You put a little bit on the paper and a little bit on the metal and press them together. Don't be goopy about it. Just cover both surfaces first and press them together. That also works really great. And then lastly, from your house, you're going to want to find something to form this flat sheet into a round tube, basically. So something you can use is a straight-sided jar, a jar with straight sides like this. You also may be a baker, or you might cook, or someone in your life might. So you might have a rolling pin in your house. This is also basically like a flat, it's the same type of surface. What you do not want to use is something that is angled or tapered on the side, like a drinking cup, like this, like something with an edge on it that is tapered. You want something that is straight sides, okay? And lastly, some kind of straight edge. Some kind of straight edge, either like a ruler, plain old ruler. Mine's metal, yours could be wood. Or if you don't have a ruler, some kind of flat, straight piece of something. This is a paint stir stick, like from Home Depot. When you buy the paint, they give you the stick to stir it with. This is also great. And if you don't have either one of those things, don't worry. I have a trick for you. All right. So next, we're going to get started. Let's start making our little holes. So what I'm going to do is, I kind of like to start in the middle. You can start on the edges. Just make sure that that wood is totally under where you're going to be hitting. You will, like I said, have to move the pattern around in order to make sure that you still have areas to work. So I'm putting my pinky down, I'm anchoring my pinky, I'm pushing down. My tip of my center punch is on the little dot, and I'm going to line it up and give it a whack. Line it up and give it a whack. And I'm probably going to go a little bit faster than you. So just work at a pace that is comfortable. You're also going to want to stop and take breaks every now and then. Rest your hands. A lot of holes on this. Okay. So I'm just going to go through and make sure my block, and I can kind of see with my eyes, how much farther I have by how many dots, or like where the line is on the block. So I'm going to scooch it over and keep going until I get to the end. All of the patterns have a combination of dots and lines. So you're only to make a hole where you see a dot. If you see a dot, it's a hole. If you see a line, we will be drawing those lines later. So just be patient and focus on your hammer time. I want to finish this top line first, so I'm going to do the whole top line first. And then I will start on these little curves on the corners. I'll do that next. You'll know if you're hitting much too hard. The center punch will push down. Your holes will probably start smushing together because you're hitting it too hard. You want enough that it passes through, but not so hard that you have to kind of twist it out of the wood. You're not trying to nail anything in. You're just trying to create a little line of holes, just like that. And on the back, these holes, once they're hammered, these become a little bit sharp as well. So please don't stroke the back holes or the edges. So now I'm going to do these corners. Good job. I can tell. Even from the West Coast. Okay, so for instance, this corner right here has been done with all of the holes. Now, the next thing that I want to do is complete all of the holes. And when I start doing the lines, I will simply turn this over and I will draw the lines with the center punch from the back, and I'll start in the middle of the pattern and just make little lines in between where I made the holes. It's not scientific, it doesn't have to be exact. Don't worry about it. It's gonna be so beautiful when we're done. We're gonna put a lot of these lines in. And as you're drawing the lines, you'll probably notice that the metal pushes forward a little bit. So you get a little bit of dimension, a little bit of like bubbling out from the metal. It's really, really nice. You're gonna love it, okay? So I'm gonna keep hammering, you keep hammering, and when we see each other next, we're gonna start folding the edges, okay? Okay, so how'd that go? You're doing great, I can tell. Hammering's so fun, isn't it? So I have punched the whole back. All my holes have been punched. And now I'm going to start drawing the lines. So to draw the lines, you just need your center punch. We're still going to draw with the tip of the center punch. I'm also going to have like a piece of scrap paper that I'm going to work on. So I have one piece of scrap paper underneath my metal, and I took the wood block out. I'm on the towel. So I have a piece of paper. You can also use a magazine. And then I'm going to have another piece of paper, and what this is going to do is when I start drawing over the areas that have these holes, they're kind of sticking up, so I don't hurt my side of my hand while I'm drawing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first draw a little bit with the paper. So the first part I'm going to draw is this corner. There's lines in between the dots. So I'm just going to flip it over and I'm going to draw the little lines, and I've already drawn them right here. And I've already drawn these lines in between the dots right here. And I'm just going to continue to do that. And what I'm doing is I'm just kind of making a line in the middle first, and then I draw lines out to the edges. So between these little arch parts on these little arched parts, I'm just going to draw lines in between the dots. So I'm going to use the holes as my guide. And I'm just going to literally make little lines just right in between where the holes are. And again, I'm not worrying too much about it being exactly perfect because it's not going to be. It's totally fine. This is art. It's your interpretation. So part of my hand's starting to go onto these little holes. So I'm going to put my little scrap paper down to protect the side of my hand. I'm also going to make lines in these bigger areas. And all these lines that you're drawing are literally going to glitter from the light on the inside. So any like extra little marks that you make like this are going to be fantastic. So the problem is I can't really see from the front what I'm doing. So I am going to actually remove this tape. Now that I have the hang of it, I'm going to remove the pattern. And what I'm going to try to do, what I'm going to attempt to do, is to use those tabs that I made for myself. And you see I'm not touching this edge, keeping away from it. Danger, danger. And I've pulled off the tape from both sides. I'm going to attempt to pull this off as one piece. So let's see how that goes. I'm going to grab it and I'm going to hold down the edges and I'm going to pull the pattern. Woo! Come off, pattern. That's awesome. And you can see, I love this part, that you can see all the holes that you just punched. You made like a weird lace. Okay, so now, yay, we can see these marks that have begun right here. So now I can see from the front, I can see from the back. So I'm just going to work from the back. I am going to fill in all the lines in all of the arched areas. If I need to, I will put down my little scrap paper to protect my hand. And this is the art part, guys. So if you want to do something a little different with your line work, with your little drawing parts, I encourage you to do that. And if you feel like you've messed up or whatever, just draw over it. It'll be fine. It's not rocket science. It's supposed to be fun and freeing. And in the end, you're going to make a beautiful little lantern, little luminary, reminiscent of trench art. Ooh, we're coming along here. I can see this. Okay, I'm going to start on the other side. And you'll notice that when you actually make the line, that the metal itself bubbles out a little bit towards the front, right? Making like a little indentation. So this is adding some shape, some texture to the surface that we wouldn't have otherwise. This act of drawing on very thin metal, for your information, is called tooling. Tooling. Like you have a tool and you add ing to the end of it. Now I have to decide too what I'm going to do with the star patterns. If we're going to, for the star patterns, the circles, the outer circles that go around the stars, we're going to be doing the same line work, same exact thing in between the holes of those circles surrounding the stars. So I'm going to do that next. Okay. I'm doing my best also to keep this metal very flat while I'm working on it. I'm trying to bubble it out or... So this is where I might need my little scratch paper piece to protect my hand. And I am, again, working, there's paper underneath my metal, but you can, like I said, you can use a magazine if you have a magazine laying around. That will also work. So I'm going to actually make some little lines on the star patterns from the front. And I'm just making it kind of look like circle lines. This is optional. Again, this is where your art comes in, folks. Let the material talk to you and tell you what to do. Oh, yes. So once you're satisfied with the line work, feel good about it, we're going to begin to do your edges. So that's gonna be next. So you're going to remove the towel from under your work. You're gonna find a magazine or a piece of paper that you can work on so you still don't mess up the table. Okay, so do that and we'll come back and we'll fold your edges. Okay, so now all the drawing's done. Now we need to do the edges and make it into a luminary. Finish it off, right? So again, friendly reminder, edges are sharp. Please be careful. And if you notice that you have any edges that are kind of trying to peek up on you, get some squirrely, get curly, take your wood block. Use it as an iron. Do you remember ironing your pants? Maybe you've seen somebody do this on TV. Basically, we're just using the edge of this to iron down the edges. This is not a have to. This is just, you know, maybe things got a little crunchy when you were working. So I'm just taking a moment. If I have any edges that are a little bit crunchy, I'm going to take my iron and iron. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is just fold down this top edge here. Okay, and I can see visually it's not straight. I'm just going to follow the line that I actually punched. So I'm going to fold up this whole edge. There's a couple ways we can approach this. The first way is using a ruler. I've got a straight edge ruler. Maybe you don't have that. Maybe you have a paint stick, like from Home Depot. I went to go buy a can of paint. You have a paint stick. That will also work. Maybe you have a table with an edge that you can bend it over. And if that's not an option, you can always use the edge of your wood block. The edge of your wood block. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the ruler. So I'm going to show you on one side how to do the ruler and on the other side how to use the wood block. So I'm flipping it over. I'm flipping the metal over. The inside, the back of the pattern is right here. And I'm going to place my ruler on the edge right above those holes. Right above those holes. And then I'm going to slide, once it's in place, I'm going to press it down pretty firmly and I'm going to slide it towards the edge of the table. And the metal's actually hanging off of the table right now. The metal's actually hanging off. So at this point, I'm going to brace myself. I'm going to brace the ruler down. I'm going to take my wood block and I'm going to just press the wood block against the table and bring it up and bend up this edge. And I'm going to do that from the middle first, and then I'm going to go out to the edges. I'm not trying to bend it up into 90 degrees straight up like a corner yet. I'm just trying to ease it up onto the ruler edge. Then once this whole edge has been eased up, then I'm going to go through and get it up to 90 degrees. I'm going to do it up a little bit more. And then I'm going to scooch it back onto the table and I'm going to take the wood block and press it over. Not trying to do it, not trying to lock in the ruler. I'm just trying to establish more of a bend. It should be beyond 90 degrees. Whatever you're using. If you're using the straight edge or whatever. Or the ruler. So then I'm going to take the ruler out and you can see that there's a little bit of a gap there. And I'm still not touching the edge. I am going to now take my wood block and I'm going to press down that edge all the way. And I think you may be able to see this, but if your edge, my edge is really close to the pattern. If your edge is more than 1/2 of an inch away from the pattern, then you'll just take a pair of scissors and trim it to about 1/2 of an inch from the edge. So now that edge has been bent over completely. I'm going to take the edge of my wood and I'm going to focus on this back edge and I'm going to just iron it down, iron it flat like this. Ironing my pants. Okay, so now one edge is down. Now I'd like to fold down the other edge. So let me show you 2 other ways to bend this edge. One way is to simply put your metal on the edge of your wood block And you're just going to have to kind of pick it up and look and make sure that the placement is right, that the edge of the wood block is, you know, at the edge of the pattern. Then I'm going to either just bend it up on the table and then scooch this down and repeat. Or I can put this edge on the wood and use my hammer as like a smoother. So it's best to let this hang over the edge of the table, but I'd like you to see what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually just take the hammer and push up the metal. I could also use the handle to press it up against. What am I not using? My fingers. You're not supposed to use your fingers. You're just going to use your tools. Okay, so these are all ways to do it. I'm kind of a nerd, so I'm going to use my ruler to sharpen this up a little bit. I'll take this out and complete the bend. The wood block. Press it down. Wood block. Okay. And now we also have these outer edges. And we're just going to fold them up one time. Mine have about, I have a ruler right here, I can tell you. Mine's about an inch. There's an inch of not patterned metal on the edge. So I'm going to fold that up in half. I'm just going to half. Doesn't have to be perfect again visually. I'm just going to look at it. I'm just going to line up my ruler, stand up and so I can see it. Okay. And then I'm going to hang it over the edge of my table just like I did on the long edges. And I'm going to use my wood block to fold it up. Then I'm going to use the wood block to gently push it down. Remove the ruler and iron. Repeat on the other side. Awesome. All right, so what I'm going to do is I need to bend one side. Here's the template. One side needs to be bent forward. One side needs to be bent towards the back. So one side will be bent towards the front and one side will be bent towards the back. So in my case, I'm going to flip over my pattern so the front is up. The front is up just like the template. And I'm going to fold the left side up towards the front and I'm going to fold the right side towards the back. Okay, so that's next. So the first thing is towards the front. So I'm just going to take my ruler and really your pattern is probably going to come out this way, where you have like a 1/2 inch of shiny pattern, and this is what you want to fold over. So you have this place that's not hammered, it does not have any texture on it. That's going to become the tab. So I'm not going to even measure it. I'm just going to use the edge of my punched line, and I'm going to put the ruler right over those holes. And now these edges, we've made them safe by folding them over. So I am going to use my fingers now. I'm going to fold it over and I'm going to finish it with the wood. So first one towards the front. And then just like we've been doing, let's complete that bend. So this side is towards the front. Now this side, I'm going to fold towards the back. So I'm going to flip over the pattern. I'm going to line this up with the edge of the fold that I made. I'm going to gently, I'm just basically guiding it up so I can get it up enough to use the wood block. Then I'll use the wood block to ease it over. Okay. And then finish the bend. Great. So now I have one side folded towards the back and one side towards the front. Now, according to our template, on the front, I have this front up. I'm going to be making 2 small cuts using plain old scissors. Plain old scissors. I'm going to make 2 inch-long cuts from the top, and I'm going to make 2 little cuts from the bottom. On the right side, the flap that's facing towards the back, I am going to cut right in the crease of that fold, right directly in the crease of that fold, 1 cut. 1 on the top and 1 cut on the bottom. These little cuts are going to end up being our little tabs that we're going to actually close up the tube with. So the first one, and I don't know if you can see, it's basically the width of the tab dictates the first cut. You're going to cut to the outside of the first tab and then in the crease for the second cut. So that's what we're going to do first, and that's going to be on this side. So I'm going to ease up my fold a little bit so I can cut it pretty easily. So I'm going to just cut right outside of the tab. I'm going to do it on the, I'm going to do the same cut right outside the tab. Then I'm going to open up that fold a little bit. And I'm going to cut right in the crease. The same length that you cut the first little cut, you're going to cut the second little cut. And again. So here there's a tab here and a tab here. 2 cuts, 1 in the crease and 1 outside of the flap. So I'm going to put the flap back. Then we're going to cut the other side. So the other side is just 1 cut in the crease. So slightly undo the fold so you can get the scissors in there. And I'm going to cut same thing, about 1 inch long little cut right directly in the crease of the metal. And what do you think I'm going to say? The cut edges are what? Say it with me. Sharp. So please be careful. Now I'm going to put that flap down a little bit. So the flaps should be not completely pressed down. They should have a little bit of an angle sticking up. And then we're going to form it. We need to form it into a tube form, you know, like a tube form. So the thing that we're going to use to form it is something that has round, that has straight sides. This is a rolling pin, like for rolling out pie crust, but it's got straight sides. Most people have a rolling pin. If not, find a glass or a jar that has flat sides. Do not use a cup with an angled edge. You want something with a flat edge. And I'm going to roll the whole piece. And move all these little things out of the way. And I'm just gonna take the rolling pin and I'm going to pick up the back of the metal, and using my fingers, I'm going to form the edges around. I'm going to push the edges directly against the rolling pin, like these edges here need to be pressed up against whatever you're using in order to get it nice and round. You don't want a crunchy top of your luminary. Yuck. And don't worry, we will clean up a lot of this later, because you can see my top edge is not super cute yet, but it will be, don't worry. Okay, so when we made those tabs folding towards the front and towards the back, we actually made a locking mechanism. So I told you to kind of lift up those tabs. So I'm going to lift up those edges a little bit. I'm going to lift up these edges just with my fingers. I'm just going to open it up just a tiny bit. And then they're going to lock together. They're going to lock together. They're literally going to lock. Okay, so they're going to lock together. They're going to nest inside of each other. And then I'm going to just press down those flaps. We're going to press the flaps together. Then on the inside, we've made those tabs. We've made those tabs. So what I want you to do is there's a tab on the very inside. It's basically 2 layers. So I'm going to push one down first. And then there's one on the inside. You'll have 1 layer left out. And it's just these 2 little layers on the inside get pressed down. So I'm going to do it on the other side. Make sure those flaps are locked together. I'm going to bend down the inside tab first. A little tab on the inside first. And then there's a second tab from the other layer. And that's what's actually going to lock everything down and keep it closed. So you should still have an outer edge here. You should still have this outer edge here. And those little flat parts with no pattern on them have disappeared. So now we're going to clean up these little edges on the inside. So my edges are a little bit crunchy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take the handle of my hammer, or even the inside of the round part of my hammer, and I'm going to put this on the edge of the table, and I'm going to either use the handle, and I'm just using the table itself. So again, if you're working on some nice furniture, there should be a piece of paper underneath where you're working right now. I'm just going to go through, and I'm using the table. I'm rubbing against the table in order to get my edges really crisp. Okay, and it's going to take a little bit to finesse that. Once you've done your edges, now it's time to light it up. So you can use a small jar. We have the small jar right here, the small little like a jelly jar, a jam jar, and a little plastic luminary light. Oops. So the light goes in the jar goes inside, and it will light up all these beautiful holes, and we have some really beautiful photos to show you of all this. What a fantastic item, right? You made an old-fashioned flashlight, basically. Welcome to Trench Art, folks. I hope you really loved this project as much as we did. And if you haven't seen the Trench Art exhibition, please go over to the National World War II Museum and check it out. It's really phenomenal, and it'll bring you closer to this project. Thank you, and if you have any questions or concerns, please contact us through the website. And have a wonderful day. Thank you. And that's it, you guys. We did it. We totally nailed it. Well, we hammered it, per se, right? Great job. You made such an important piece of artwork, and I really hope that you make it down to the World War II Museum to check out the Trench Art exhibition so you can bond even more with what you just made today. Thank you so much, and please don't hesitate to check us out online or reach out with any questions or concerns. I hope you enjoyed your time today as much as I did. Thanks for joining us.